we could move on here to the AFC playoff picture, which is wide open at this point. We've seen teams rise, we've seen teams fall. Teams like the Bills, who a couple of weeks ago everybody was like, nobody can beat this team. Now they look very vulnerable.
What's the Jaguars, for God's sake?
The Jaguars winning some games now, and yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence coming on stronger. The Patriots surging, which I'm sure you're happy to see. But it seems like in the AFC we have a whole bunch of teams that we just don't know who they are. We don't know. There's not a clear-cut, really great team. I would say the Titans would have been that clear-cut team, but they lost Derrick Henry, and they played 1 week now, and it seemed like they made up for that in all right fashion. But we're not going to know how big of an impact losing Derrick Henry is until a few more games are under their belt here. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on the AFC? It's your Patriots out there, so I'm interested to hear your perspective on this entire division.
So the Ravens for a while were looking like they were at the top of the AFC, but just last night they lost to the 2-7 Dolphins and only scored 10 points. So it's like, what's even going on anymore? You guess at any given Sunday or any given Thursday in
right.
this case, but it's too much of that. You generally think, all right, this is an easy win for the Bills, or this is an easy game for the Ravens to win, but not so much the case in 2021. And another team that showed promise earlier in the year is the Chargers. And then, early in the year, the Patriots weren't looking so hot, even though they had a lot of close games. But then the Chargers lose to the Patriots in a 3-point game. So maybe the Chargers will be one of the top teams in the AFC. But I think there is definitely not a clear-cut leader in the AFC right now. So we'll see if anyone pulls ahead going forward.
Yeah, I think in the AFC, it's an interesting situation because you have a lot of teams with a lot of really young leadership. You mentioned the Chargers. Justin Herbert is a young quarterback yet. Josh Allen, still a young quarterback, even though he's been solid since he arrived. Still young, though. Patriots, obviously, Mac Jones is out there. Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, all of these guys are young guys. And I think we're seeing kind of the inconsistency that comes with young leadership kind of play out in the AFC this year.
Yeah,
so if I had to pick teams that I think are going to pull out, I would say it's those teams with veteran leadership. So Ryan Tannehill and the Titans, I think that the Titans would probably be the number one seed coming out of the AFC. I think that they just have the best team across the board, even though they lost Derrick Henry. But then I think the Ravens are going to clean up their problems. I think that while it's concerning that there's kind of a blueprint out there now, like the zero blitz type of deal, which the Dolphins got them with last night and the Bengals got them with a couple weeks ago. It's almost good that there's a blueprint because, okay, well, we know the problem, we can fix it now, right? And Lamar Jackson has been there, done that. Even though he's still a young quarterback, he's got an MVP under his belt, and he's playing lights out. The dude is absolutely the most irreplaceable player in the league. So I would say Titans or Ravens would be my pick. Bills for a close third, but at this point, the older the leadership, the more veteran a squad is, I think the better they're going to be in the AFC, just because there's so much young talent in that division. So
yeah, and I think with that young leadership, it comes a bit of inconsistency. We've seen that a lot with players like Baker Mayfield, for example, or maybe even Lamar Jackson at times. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but this one game was only able to score one touchdown. Only had like 200 and 38 yards. And let's not forget Patrick Mahomes not having a season that everyone think he would. Another case of the Madden curse.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I have no faith in the Chiefs this year. They look, they should have blown out the Packers last week. And just watching that game, the Packers defense with all of the injuries they have, granted that I think they're a good defensive team this year, but man, oh man, the Chiefs offense from past, that would have been a 40-10 blowout. You know what I mean? And yeah, not a good showing. I really have no faith in the Chiefs this year. I'm scared they might not even make the playoffs. So we'll see. With Patrick Mahomes, you never say never, but I don't know. I might say never.
Yeah, the AFC West is a tough division this year.
Is.
Yeah. The Broncos, even though they're in last place, they're sort of a sneaky good team, and they're
hanging around.
And with their defense, we'll see how that changes with Von Miller not there anymore. But
right.
But
I do think that it's an NFC Super Bowl year. I think that the NFC is far too stacked. And I think whatever team ends up, whether it's Tampa, LA, Green Bay, Arizona, whatever team ends up coming out of the NFC, it's going to be too tough of a matchup for whatever AFC team is there. So, yeah.
I think that's a great segue to our next topic. Speaking of the NFC, the Rams just keep piling on more talents. Do you think they're trying to win a Super Bowl this year?
I think if they don't, they're never going to have a draft pick for the next 10 years. So they better win it this year.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, this one was a tough one for me as a Packers fan, because there was so much speculation around whether OBJ would join the Packers. And I just want to say right from the outset, I'm glad he didn't join the Packers, purely for what he said right after he got signed. So I don't know if you saw this, but he said that he felt as though the Packers weren't all in on winning this year and the Rams were. What he failed to mention is that he's going to be getting paid $4.5 million more for playing with the Rams. Packers couldn't offer anymore. They have literally they're in cap hell right now. They have no cap space. So they had to offer the veteran minimum. So he's going to be making millions more in LA. He's played with Sean McVay, or at least had interaction with Sean McVay. So there's a rapport there. Also, it's the difference between LA and Sheboygan, Wisconsin, right? That's an easy decision there.
Wait, Sheboygan? Why do you say Sheboygan?
It's just because it's a fun town to say, and it's up near Green Bay. And it's that's the coastal city, that's the coastal. Yeah. If you're thinking coastal Wisconsin, it's just not a competition. So for him to come out and say it, to slander the Packers, again, I'm biased because I'm a fan, but it's we don't need that energy in the locker room. The dude's been injured and he's always causing problems. And with his dad making a montage of all the times that Baker Mayfield wasn't throwing in the ball, come on, is this Pee Wee football? Are we calling what are we doing here? So I'm very glad that he didn't join.
Situation here,
right? Exactly. Come on now. This is pro sports. Leave the parents out of it. Parents stay out of it. And you know what? I'm glad that he's in LA. Maybe I'm not glad he's in LA because that's going to be competition for the Packers, but I am glad he's not in Green Bay. We have plenty of wide receiver depth.
I saw this interesting stat on the reports on Odell Beckham to the Rams on CBS Sports. It said that the addition of OBJ has increased the Rams' total wins this season from 11.9 to 12, and I'm like,
what does a tenth of a win look like?
Yeah. I'm like, what? Why would you put that stat on there? That means basically nothing. So that basically saying Odell adds almost nothing to this team. Right. What is that?
I mean, he was a wide receiver 3 in Cleveland. So you're coming to a team with Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, he's going to be another wide receiver 3.
Wait, wide receiver 3. Who besides Jarvis Landry was above him?
T. Higgins was having a better season than Odell. And you know what, to Odell's dad's credit, maybe that was a product of Baker not targeting him. But as far as production goes, OBJ was not a top 2 target for Cleveland this year. And part of that has to do with his injury bug problem as well. But yeah, I mean, especially that disparity is even greater on the Rams team because they have 2 established guys in Cooper Kupp, probably the best receiver in the league right now, and Robert Woods, who quietly is one of the most consistent players in the league at that position. So, yeah, I mean, that stat makes a lot of sense. It's hilarious, but it makes a lot of sense. If anything, I think that OBJ, this signing, along with the Von Miller signing, it might have a psychological effect of like, okay, we're really all in. And like, even if the production isn't there from those 2 that you'd think from 2-star players, it could be enough psychologically for that team to be like, well, we're going to the Super Bowl. Like that's what's happening this year, you know?
Or maybe that intimidation factor.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very good point.
Yeah. So another stat about OBJ to the Rams is that their chance of winning their division has jumped from 23.3% to 24.4%. So now again, not a huge jump, but more from 11.9 to 12.
I want to know, when do the Rams and the Cardinals face off? Let's see. I'm looking at it right now here. So week 14. And let's see. Oh, wait.
That's going to be a good game. That's really going to be a game to watch.
Yeah, and they lost to him already in week 4. So it was a close game, relatively close. They lost by 2 scores. But yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah.
We have the Packers and the Cardinals in a 3-week stretch.
Wow, so that's a tough schedule.
Yeah, it's a heck of a stretch, that's for sure. There'll be a lot of fun games to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I see the Rams not taking this division. I've kind of been high on the Rams from the start. I really like Matthew Stafford, even though he's gotten some flack for his play in the last couple of weeks. I just think that, again, it comes down to the leadership, and he's a veteran in the league. He knows what it feels like to lose, playing with the Lions for his entire career before this year. And yeah, I do see the Rams coming out of that division over the Cardinals. I think with one more game, if they can beat them, I think it's their division to lose, even though they're sitting in the 2nd place spot right now. So
yeah. Just one more thing about OBJ is the Rams seem pretty convinced that he's just going to be resorting back to his playing time with the Giants and that level of play. And I'm not so sure about that. I'm not sure I'm completely sold on that. Like, he's had several injuries the past couple of years, including an AC joint injury in his shoulder just in week 6. So I'm not sure if he's just gonna be going in stride to this Rams team. Maybe it just was Baker Mayfield that was the factor that was hindering OBJ's production on the fields. But we'll see. That there's also been the problem I've heard about OBJ not running routes as he's been told to. He sort of just runs his own route sometimes, and that's why sometimes the passes goes off target, because he's running sort of one way and the quarterback throws it a little bit off to the side. So that's something
he's going to have to be I mean, it's interesting because he's probably going to have to be okay with being a wide receiver 3, right? He's going to have to be okay with taking the pressure off for Kupp and Woods. And I'm not sure he gets that many more targets and receptions with this team just because there are so many mouths to feed. Maybe he does. Maybe this is the spark that's needed. But yeah, it's an interesting signing. It's a weird saga that he's been a part of, because when he came to the Browns, it was Jarvis Landry recruiting. And everyone was just like, holy shit, this is going to be an unstoppable offense. Like, these two guys are going to light the league on fire.
Yeah.
It didn't pan out that way. So it's being hyped in a similar fashion here. I mean, all of NFL Twitter was just holding their breath. So it seems, for a player that hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game in a while. So his name, it carries the clout that perhaps hasn't been backed up by his play on the field. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, with or without him, the Rams are a scary team in the NFC. I still think one of the Super Bowl favorites this year, and that's not a hot take. That's a very mainstream take. So we'll see.